Chapter 1, The Day That Had No End. Feel the relentless heat of the sun on your back. It's not a comforting heat, it's a blinding white blade cutting through your skin. You try to plant the sweet potato, but the earth is already dry before you even cover the seed. You try to dry your fishing nets, but the day ends before the moisture evaporates. You look at the sky. The sun, Te-Are, is not just shining, it is fleeing. It races across the firmament with cruel speed, devouring the hours, leaving humanity breathless, always late, always hungry, always in the dark before the work is done. In the Pacific Islands, long before modern maps, there was a time when the day was too short to live. And it was in this time of haste and shadow that Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga was born. He was not a god sitting on a throne of clouds, distant from human suffering. Maui was blood and bone, laughter and sweat. He was the youngest son, the Tama-Puri, son of darkness or mystery, the one who arrived in the world unexpectedly, wrapped in a lock of his mother Taranga's hair, hence his name, Tiki-Tiki, meaning tuft or knot. Now imagine him, young, muscular, with skin tanned by sea salt and eyes that gleam with dangerous intelligence. He carries neither a sword nor a scepter. In his hand, he holds a fishhook. But it is not an ordinary fishhook made of wood or shell. It is the matau, made from the jawbone of his ancestor, Hainui-Te-Ipa, or in some versions, forged with ancient magic and sacred chants, Karakia. Maui watches his brothers. They are strong, yes. Skilled fishermen. But they accept the world as it is. If the sun runs, they run with it. If night comes early, they sleep hungry. They obey the laws of the gods without question. But Maui? Maui hates blind obedience. For him, the universe is not an immutable decree, it is a puzzle waiting to be solved. A system that can be hacked. He sees the injustice in the sun's swiftness and feels a cold anger growing in his chest. It is not anger of hatred, but of frustrated love for humanity. Why did the gods give us bodies that need time, but a sky that grants us no time? He walks to the edge of the beach, where the waves break forcefully. The salty wind tangles his hair. He talks to himself, or perhaps he talks to the ocean spirits who raised him when his mother rejected him. They say Te-Are is powerful, Maui murmurs, his voice low, but firm as volcanic rock. They say he's too fast to be captured. They say it's madness to try to tame the light. He smiles. A crooked smile, full of white teeth and absolute confidence. Then let's see if madness tastes like victory. Maui doesn't plan to ask favors of the gods. He won't sacrifice pigs or sing hymns of supplication. He will do the unthinkable. He will hunt the sun. But to hunt a star, you need more than a hook. You need allies. And, most importantly, you need ropes. Ropes made not of ordinary fiber, but of something that can withstand the heat of an angry god. He looks at his brothers, who laugh at him from a distance, mocking his ambition. You laugh, Maui thinks. But when I bring the day back to you, when I make time stand still so we can live, you will forget the laughter. Or will you? Doubt hangs in the air. Maui knows his people are ungrateful. He knows that heroes often die forgotten or betrayed. But that doesn't stop him. His motivation is not glory, it's necessity. It's the sight of a child crying because there's no light to play in, of a mother cooking in the dark. He tightens the grip on his magic hook. The bone vibrates in his hand, sensitive to the intention of its wielder. Matau wants to fish. And today, the prey is neither a fish nor a whale. Today, the prey is time itself. Maui turns his back to the sea and walks toward the forest where the flax trees, harakeke, grow. He needs to weave the ropes of resistance. He needs to prepare the trap that will change the rhythm of the world forever. As he walks, the sun begins to set, too quickly, as always. Darkness engulfs the island. But in Maui's eyes, there is a spark that the night cannot extinguish. The hunt has begun. And the sun doesn't yet know it is being watched. Chapter 2, The Boy the Sea Rejected. Feel the salty cold of the water on your skin. It's not a refreshing bath, it's the icy, indifferent embrace of the deep ocean. You are floating, small, helpless, wrapped in a strand of hair that was your only warmth. The world above is just a distant smudge of light, while the abyss below whispers ancient secrets. This is Maui's first memory. Or rather, this is the memory he carries as an invisible scar on his soul. In the oral traditions of Maori and throughout Polynesia, Maui's origin is not marked by celebrations, but by rejection. His mother, Tarana, a woman of divine lineage, gave birth to a premature son. Weak, silent, perhaps dead in the eyes of the living, she believed the child had no future. With a heavy heart, but following the rigid custom of her time, she wrapped the baby in her tiki-tiki, her topknot, her sacred ornament, and cast him into the waves. It was to be the end. A silent return to the womb of the world. But the ocean is not just water, it is Tangaroa, the god of the sea, the primordial ancestor. And Tangaroa did not discard the boy. The currents enveloped him like protective arms. The seaweed cradled him. The spirits of the depths, the creatures that dwell where light does not reach, observed that fragment of human life with curiosity. Maui did not die. He was adopted by liquid chaos itself. Imagine growing up without the warmth of a human home. Without a mother's lullabies, without the stories told around the village fire. Maui grew up in the bowels of myth. His adoptive father was not a man, but a cosmic force. It was in the depths that he learned to breathe under pressure. It was in the silence of the abyss that he learned to hear the thoughts of the tides. He was not just a survivor, he was a student. While his human brethren grew up on land, learning to fish with nets and cultivate the land with patience, Maui learned to manipulate reality. He discovered that the rules of the human world, gravity, time, mortality, were flexible for those who knew the secrets of the gods. Years passed. The frail boy had become a robust young man, his muscles defined by the effort of swimming against violent currents and a mind as sharp as an obsidian blade. But a question gnawed at his insides, stronger than hunger or cold: who am I? The solitude of the ocean, however vast, offered no answer. There was an emptiness in his chest that could only be filled by acknowledging his origins. So, Maui decided to return. He emerged from the waters not as a castaway, but as a stranger. His hair, long and tangled with salt, fell over his shoulders. His eyes had the unsettling depth of one who had seen the bottom of the world. He walked to the village of his mother, Tamed, who now lived with her other sons, strong and respected men, pillars of the community. When Tamed saw him, the shock was absolute. Did she recognize the lock of hair that still hung from his body? Or did she recognize something in the stranger's eyes that reminded her of her own past sin? Maui's brothers, Rata and the others, looked at him with suspicion. Who was this wildling emerging from the sea? Why did he possess that aura of power that made the air vibrate? Maui didn't ask for shelter. He didn't cry. He simply observed. He saw how his brothers worked hard, sweating under the relentless sun, complaining about the lack of time, the early darkness. He saw their frustration, their resignation in the face of the laws of nature. And, for the first time, Maui felt a connection. It wasn't brotherly love, yet. It was identification. They were limited. They were prisoners. And he held the keys to the prison. Tamed, moved by a maternal intuition that transcends logic, approached him. "You smell of my regret," she said, her voice trembling. Maui smiled, that crooked smile that disarms gods and monsters. "And I have the solution to your problems," he replied. He didn't reveal his identity immediately. He preferred to prove his worth through actions. He displayed abilities no human possessed. He transformed himself into birds to fly beyond the horizon. He spoke the language of fish. He controlled the wind with a whistle. Slowly, distrust gave way to admiration. And admiration, to fear. Because Maui wasn't just skillful, he was unpredictable. He questioned everything. Why is fire hot? Why is night dark? Why must we die? His brothers called him a trickster. They didn't understand that, for Maui, trickery wasn't lying out of malice. It was challenging the established order to find a better truth. But there was one final test. Before fully accepting his place among humans, before using his power to change the world, Maui needed to know if he was truly Taranga's son. He needed the validation of his blood. One night, while the tribe slept, Maui silently entered his mother's house. He didn't steal food, nor weapons. He stole something far more precious, Taranga's sacred garments, hidden on the roof of the house, a place forbidden to ordinary men. Upon finding them, he felt the magic woven into the threads. And as he held them, an absolute certainty flooded his being. He was hers. He was part of that people. And now, having reclaimed his identity, he had a debt to repay. He looked out the window at the night sky, where the stars twinkled coldly. The sun was resting, preparing for another cruel race the following day. Maui clutched the garments to his chest. "Tomorrow," he whispered to the darkness. "Tomorrow, I will stop time." He left the house, disappearing into the shadows of the forest. His brothers slept, dreaming of short days and long nights. They didn't know that, at dawn, the world's routine would be broken forever. Maui walked towards the highest mountain, where the sun rose. In his hand, the bone fishhook shone with its own light. In his heart, the confidence of one who knows he was chosen by the sea to save the land. But the sun is not easy prey. And Aotearoa, the sun god, is not known for his mercy. The challenge was set. The trickster was ready. And the sky, indifferent, awaited the confrontation. Chapter 3, The Ropes of Resistance. Feel the rough texture of the flax, harakeke, between your fingers. It is no ordinary fiber, it is the skin of the earth, cut and braided with intention. Sweat trickles down your brow, mingling with the red dust of the volcanic soil. Your brothers are beside you, but they don't understand what they are doing. To them, it is manual labor. To Maui, it is the forging of a divine weapon. The previous night was short, like all the others. The sun set with its usual speed, stealing precious hours of rest and preparation. But Maui did not sleep. He spent the dark hours gathering the toughest leaves from the flax plants, chanting ancient karakia, incantations, he learned in the depths of the ocean. Each braid was reinforced with magic, each knot sealed with a promise. At dawn, he gathered his 4 older brothers. They looked at the piles of thick, twisted ropes with skepticism. What are these bonds for, little brother? Shall we go shark fishing? Or just play blind man's bluff? The eldest mocked, stretching his muscles. Maui didn't answer with words. He pointed east, where the horizon was beginning to lighten with a reddish hue, a harbinger of Te Ra's arrival. Today, said Maui, his voice calm but laden with an authority that silenced his brothers. Today, we will hunt the sun. Laughter died in their throats. Hunt the sun? It was blasphemy. It was madness. Te Ra was a god, a primordial force that burned everything it touched. No one could capture the light. You will help me, ordered Maui. Not out of faith in me, but out of necessity for you. How many times have your nets dried while wet? How many times have your crops rotted before they were ready? The sun is lazy with us. It runs because we don't respect its power. Today, we will make it respect us. Reluctantly, driven more by curiosity than conviction, the brothers took up the ropes. Maui led the group to the base of the sacred mountain, Haleakala, the house of the sun, or in some versions, the crater from which Te Ra emerged every day. The path was steep, rocky, covered in dense vegetation that scratched the skin. As they climbed, Maui explained the plan. It wasn't a plan of brute force. It was an ambush. When he comes out, Maui instructed, pointing to the crater's mouth, a narrow opening in the volcanic rock, he will pass through here. It's the only way. You must throw the nooses over him. Don't look at his face, or you'll go blind. Look at his arms, his legs. Tie him to the rocks. Hold on tight, no matter how much he screams, no matter how much he burns. The brothers swallowed hard. The idea of touching the body of a god was terrifying. But Maui was already positioned, hidden behind a large rock, with his magic hook, the matau, ready in hand. He wouldn't use the hook to directly catch the sun, that would be impossible. The hook would be used to secure the ropes, to provide the necessary leverage, to be the focal point of the magic that would unite human will with physical resistance. The sky began to change. The deep blue gave way to orange, then to blood red. The heat intensified, making the air difficult to breathe. The stones beneath their feet began to vibrate. A deep sound, like the roar of a giant beast awakening, echoed within the crater. Te Ra was coming. The brothers trembled. Primal fear, the kind that makes us recoil from fire, gripped them. One of them dropped the rope. I can't, he whispered, his eyes wide with panic. He'll kill us. Maui grabbed his arm, his grip as strong as iron. If you let go now, you'll live in darkness forever. Hold on. For your family. For your children. Hold on. His brother nodded, tears streaming down his face, and took up the rope again. Then, he emerged. Te Ra was not merely a ball of fire. He was a colossal entity, made of pure light and intense heat. His rays were long, gleaming limbs that stretched to touch the world. He emerged from the crater with dizzying speed, ready to race through the sky as he did every day. Now, shouted Maui. The ropes flew through the air. Loops of enchanted linen fell upon the arms and legs of the sun god. The moment they touched his luminous skin, the ropes hissed, smoked, but did not break. Maui's magic, woven into the fibers, withstood the divine heat. Te Ra roared. The sound was deafening, an explosion of energy that threw the brothers back. They were dragged across the ground, their hands burning as they gripped the taut ropes. The god struggled, pulling with a force that could move mountains. The surrounding rocks began to crack. Maui leaped from his hiding place. With a fluid movement, he cast the matau. The bone hook spun in the air and lodged itself not in the sun's flesh, but in the ropes themselves, acting as a magical anchor. Maui pulled with all his demigodly strength, his muscles tensed, veins bulging in his neck. You won't escape today. Maui shouted, his voice vying with the god's roar. Te Ra stopped, surprised. For the first time in ages, he was held. He looked down, seeing those small humans, led by a fierce-eyed demigod, challenging his supremacy. The sun's rage ignited the sky, turning the day into a white inferno. But the ropes held. And Maui, smiling through the pain of the burning heat, began to negotiate. Listen to me, Te Ra. Maui cried, ignoring the smoke rising from his hands. We don't want to kill you. We want time. Time to live, to love, to create. If you keep running like a coward, we will die in the darkness. But if you accept being tamed, if you accept traveling more slowly, we will honor you. We will sing to you. We will give you offerings. Te-Are, bound by ropes that wouldn't yield and a hook that seemed to weigh more than the world, felt something new: respect. Not the fearful respect of before, but the recognition of a will equal to his own. The sun god looked into Maui's eyes and saw not an enemy, but an equal. Slowly, the fury subsided. The intense glare softened. I accept, thundered Te-Are, his voice echoing like distant thunder. But know, Māui-tikitiki, that this act will have consequences. By slowing my pace, you too will slow the end of things. Death will come later, but it will come. Maui let out a laugh, relieved and triumphant. Let it be late, then. Today, we have won the day. With a final gesture, Maui released the ropes. Te-Are rose, but this time, he moved with dignity and slowness. The sun remained in the sky for hours and hours, bathing the island in a golden and generous light. For the first time, men had enough time to complete their work, to dry their nets, to celebrate life. Maui had hacked the cosmos. And the world would never be the same again. Chapter 4, The Pact of Blood and Light. The heat is no longer just temperature, it's a physical pressure that crushes his lungs. The air smells of burnt ozone and charred linen. His brothers scream, not in anger, but in agony, as their hands bleed, their skin blistering against the taut ropes that bind a god. Te-Are, the sun, roared again, a sound that made Maui's teeth chatter in his jaw. The light emanating from his body was so intense that the brothers' shadows seemed to detach from the ground, trying to escape the pain. The surrounding rocks began to melt, transforming into viscous lava that slowly trickled down the crater's slope. Let go, pleaded one of the brothers, crying, his eyes closed to avoid being blinded by the blinding glare. He'll incinerate us. Maui didn't let go. He dug his feet into the volcanic earth, feeling the heat rise through the soles of his bare feet. He looked directly at the god's flaming face. There was no fear in his eyes, only a cold, calculating determination. You run. Maui shouted, his voice cutting through the roar of the fire. You run like a coward, stealing men's time. You leave us in darkness before we can live. Te-Are paused, fighting for an instant, surprised by the audacity. The entity of light slightly lessened its intensity, allowing Maui to be seen clearly. The sun god tilted his colossal head, and a thunderous voice, made of the crackling of stars and the breath of hot wind, echoed in their minds. Why should I stop, little insect? Te-Are asked disdainfully. Time is mine. Light is mine. Humans are ephemeral. Their lives are blinks of an eye in the cosmos. Why should I slow my eternal dance to accommodate your insignificance? Maui smiled. It was the smile of a trickster who knew he had the winning card up his sleeve. Because if you don't stop, said Maui, pulling the rope harder, making the Matau hook creak under the tension, we won't let go. And if we don't let go, you'll be trapped here. Trapped in this crater. And the world will be in eternal darkness. No light, no heat. Just ice and death. You will be the god of a cosmic graveyard. It was a partial bluff. Maui knew he couldn't hold the sun forever. His brothers were at their limit, their human strength was waning. But Te-Are didn't know that. The god saw the resolve in Maui's eyes and realized that this demigod was willing to sacrifice everything, including himself, to prove his point. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the hiss of the smoking ropes. Te-Are assessed the situation. He could burn those men to ashes, yes. But the fight would continue. Others would come. Or worse, he would be trapped, and his glory of traversing the sky would be extinguished. What do you want? Asked the god, his voice less thunderous, more cautious. Maui relaxed slightly, but didn't let go. Time, he replied. We want time. You must travel more slowly across the sky. You must give us days long enough to farm, to fish, to love, to live. If you agree, we release you. If not, well, darkness is your choice. Te-Are hesitated. The idea of being limited was abhorrent to a god. But Maui's logic was relentless. The sun agreed, but with a cruel condition. I will slow down, said Te-Are, but the price will be paid in flesh. Each extra day I give to humans will cost a part of your vitality, Maui. You will age faster. Your inner light will be extinguished to fuel my slowness. Maui's brothers' eyes widened. They didn't know this cost. Maui, however, didn't even blink. He already knew his life was short. He already knew he was a demigod, destined for great deeds and a premature end. The extra time for humanity was worth more than his own years. I accept, said Maui. With a gesture of his free hand, he signaled to his brothers. Reluctantly, painfully, they began to loosen the ropes. The enchanted linen, now charred and brittle, detached itself from the god's limbs. Te-Are rose, free. He shone with renewed intensity, but this time, his movement was different. Instead of shooting like an arrow, he began to ascend with a slow, deliberate majesty. The heat was still intense, but it was a sustained, constant heat, not a fleeting burst. The brothers fell to the ground, exhausted, burned, but alive. They looked to the sky, where the sun now traced a long, generous arc. For the first time, they saw the day stretch beyond midday, offering precious hours of golden light. Maui fell to his knees, panting. His hands were burned, his skin red and aching. But he smiled. He looked at his brothers, who watched him with a mixture of gratitude and terror. They had won time. They had defeated a god. But Maui knew that this victory had a bitter taste. He felt a deep weariness in his bones, as if years of life had been drained in that single moment of bargaining. He had traded his longevity for the prosperity of his people. As the sun continued its slow new journey across the sky, Maui rose, unsteady on his feet. He looked at the horizon, where the night was still distant, very distant. Now, he whispered to himself, now we can live. But the victory over the sun brought a new question. With longer days, humans would need more than just light. They would need warmth when the sun finally set. They would need protection from the cold of the night, which now came late, but still came. Maui looked at his burned hands. The pain was constant. And then, a memory surfaced in his mind. An ancient story, told by the spirits of the ocean. The story of Mahuika, the guardian of fire. Fire that did not come from the sun, but from the earth. Fire that could be possessed, controlled, used. If he had tamed the sun, why not steal the fire? He turned to his brothers, who were beginning to celebrate, laughing, crying with relief. Celebrate, said Maui, his voice hoarse. But don't get too comfortable. There is still darkness to conquer. He began to descend the mountain, limping slightly. The sun, now his reluctant ally, cast its long shadow ahead of him. A shadow that pointed south, towards the volcanic islands where Mahuika resided. The hunt for the sun was over. The hunt for fire was about to begin. And this time, Maui would not have the help of his brothers. This was a journey he would have to make alone, facing the most dangerous goddess of all, the one who guards the flame of life and death. Chapter 5, The Dance with the Fire Goddess. The sun's heat, now tamed and slow, warms your back as you descend the mountainside. But a different kind of chill is growing in your chest. Not the cold of the wind, but the emptiness of need. The day is long, yes, but night still comes. And when it comes, it brings with it an absolute darkness, damp and icy, where monsters whisper and fear settles. Maui watches his tribe at dusk. They take advantage of the extra hours of light to dry fish, weave nets, and play with the children. There is laughter where before there was haste. There is peace where before there was panic. Maui smiles, satisfied. He has fulfilled his promise. But then, the sun touches the horizon. The golden light quickly fades, replaced by a purple twilight and then by the impenetrable blackness of the Polynesian night. The cold falls like a heavy cloak. The smiles cease. People huddle around dying fires, shivering, waiting for the dawn that is still far away. Maui feels the frustration return. The sun provides light, but not continuous warmth. To survive the night, to cook, to ward off evil spirits, they need something more. They need fire that doesn't depend on the sky. They need Mahuika's secret. In Maori legends, Mahuika is the goddess of fire, guardian of the eternal flames. She lives deep within the earth, in the underworld. She is dangerous, unpredictable, and protective of her treasure. No one dares to disturb her. No one, except Maui. The next morning, while his brothers still sleep, exhausted from their battle with the sun, Maui prepares to leave. He takes no ropes this time. He takes only his cunning and his ability to shapeshift. He knows he cannot face Mahuika as a warrior. He must face her as a supplicant, a trickster, a son. He walks to the edge of an active volcanic crater, where the earth smokes and the sulfur smells of rotten eggs. Here, the barrier between the world of the living and Mahuika's realm is thin. Maui closes his eyes and focuses his will. He invokes the ancient magic, the same magic that allowed him to breathe in the depths of the ocean. His body begins to change. His bones crack, his skin contracts, feathers sprout from his pores. In an instant, Maui is no longer a man. He is a falcon, Kahu. With powerful wings, he dives into the crater, descending through the suffocating smoke, past layers of molten rock, until he reaches the lower caverns. The darkness here is total, broken only by the red glow of lava veins. The heat is oppressive, far greater than on the surface. Maui, in bird form, flies carefully, guided by instinct, until he finds a vast chamber illuminated by blue and gold flames. In the center of the chamber, seated on an obsidian rock, is Mahuika. She is magnificent and terrifying. Her hair is not threads, but living flames that dance violently. Her fingernails are glowing embers. Every movement of hers releases sparks that crackle like thunder. She is combing her fiery hair, singing an ancient, dark song. Maui lands gently on a nearby ledge and resumes his human form. He kneels, bowing his head in respect, but keeping his eyes open, observing every detail. Who dares disturb Mahuika's sleep? Her voice is the sound of dry wood cracking in the fire. Maui looks up. It is I, Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga, grandson of Tarana, great-grandson of you. Mahuika stops combing her hair. The flames around her flicker, surprised. She looks at the young demigod with curiosity mixed with distrust. Maui, she repeats the name as if it were a strange taste. The trickster. What brought you to my depths? Did you come to steal my light? I didn't come to steal, Maui lies, with the ease of breathing. I've come to ask. My people are cold. The night is long and cruel. We've forgotten how to make fire. Please, grandmother, give us a spark so we can survive. Mahuika laughs, a dry, crackling sound. Forgotten? Or lost it through laziness? She examines him, her fiery eyes piercing his soul. Fire is not a toy, boy. It is life and death. If I give it to you, will you know how to take care of it? I will, Maui promises, with partial sincerity. Mahuika hesitates. There is loneliness in her kingdom. The visit of a descendant, even a trickster one, is rare. She tears off one of her fingernails, which glows intensely, and throws it to Maui. Take this. It's a nail from my little finger. Take good care of it. Maui catches the fiery nail. It burns his hand, but he shows no pain. He thanks her, transforms back into a falcon, and flies back to the surface. Upon arriving at the village, he hands the flame over to his relatives. They light a bonfire, celebrating the warmth, the comfort, the safety. Maui watches, satisfied. But Mahuika's fingernail was small. Soon, it would go out. And Maui knew he needed more. He needed all the fingernails. He needed the complete secret. He returned. And again. And again. Each time, he invented an excuse. The wind blew it out. The rain fell. My brother was careless. Mahuika gave, patiently at first, then irritated, then furious. She gave fingernails, toenails, fingernails, all except the last. The last fingernail, the big toenail, was the main source of her power. On the 10th visit, Mahuika didn't give the fingernail. She looked at Maui, and for the first time, saw the lie in his eyes. She saw greed not out of need, but for control. You didn't come for the fire, she roared, rising, her form growing, becoming a column of giant flames. You came to deceive me. You stole my essence. Maui recoiled, realizing the game was over. The goddess was furious. And an angry fire goddess is the most destructive thing in the universe. Take it. Mahuika shouted, tearing off her last claw and hurling it not at Maui, but at him, like a spear of pure plasma. Maui narrowly dodged, transforming into an eagle at the last second. The claw struck the cave wall, exploding in a shockwave of fire that began to spread rapidly, consuming the oxygen, turning the cave into an oven. Mahuika pursued him, a torrent of living fire, screaming promises of destruction. You will take the fire, Maui, but the fire will take you. I will burn the whole world to reach you. Maui flew desperately upwards, climbing the volcanic chimney, with the flaming goddess close behind him. He knew he couldn't take that fire to the village. It was fire of rage, fire of chaos. If it reached there, it would burn everything. He needed to extinguish the pursuit. He needed water. As he rose toward the distant light on the surface, Maui formulated a final plan. He couldn't defeat Mahuika with force. But he could defeat her with nature. He needed to turn her own element against her. He emerged from the crater, panting, reverting to human form, and ran for the nearest river. Mahuika surged behind him, an explosion of lava and flames, ready to incinerate him. Maui plunged into the water. And he cried out to the rain spirits, to Tangaroa, to any entity that would listen. Now! Now or never! The sky, which had been clear, darkened instantly. Black clouds formed in seconds. And the rain fell. Not a drizzle, but a torrential downpour, cold and heavy. The water struck Mahuika with a deafening roar. White steam exploded in all directions, blanketing the landscape. The goddess screamed, her form diminishing, her flames being extinguished drop by drop. She tried to fight, but the water was relentless. Finally, with a last gasp of steam, Mahuika vanished, leaving only a few smoldering embers on the river stones. Maui emerged from the water, shivering from cold and exhaustion. He stared at the embers. They still glowed, faint but alive. He carefully picked them up, wrapping them in damp leaves. He had defeated the goddess. He had captured the fire. But looking at the embers, he felt an enormous weight. He had awakened the wrath of a primordial deity. And worse, he had learned that fire, though useful, was intrinsically linked to destruction. He walked back to the village, carrying the stolen gift. The people welcomed him joyfully, lighting bonfires that would last all night. They cooked, laughed, warmed themselves. But Maui did not celebrate. He sat apart, watching the flames dance. He saw in them Mahuika's fury. He saw the price of his cunning. And then, a dark idea began to germinate in his mind. If he could steal the fire, if he could tame the sun, why accept death? Why must humans die? Why not steal immortality itself? He gazed westward, toward the setting sun, beyond the horizon, toward the realm of Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga, the great lady of the night, the goddess of death. Once more, Maui whispered, his eyes reflecting the fire. Once more, I will defy the impossible. His brothers called him to eat, but he didn't hear. His mind was already elsewhere, planning the final journey. The journey from which there would be no return. Chapter 6, The Secret of the Ashes. The fire crackles in the village's central bonfire. It is no longer a timid, flickering flame, but a robust, steady dance that dispels the darkness and cold of the night. Children play in the shadows cast by the flames, and the elders tell stories in more relaxed voices, without the rush of the imminent dawn. Maui observes everything from afar, sitting on the edge of the beach, where the sand still holds the warmth of the long day. He should be satisfied. He gave his people time and warmth. He transformed the daily struggle for survival into a possible life. But there is an unease in his chest, a shadow that not even the brightest fire can illuminate. He looks at his hands. The scars from the sun rope burns and Mahuika's fingernails are still visible, rough white marks on his tanned skin. They ache when the weather changes, a constant reminder of the physical cost of his deeds. But the physical pain is not what troubles him. It is the pain of finitude. He sees an elderly tribesman coughing, frail, his bones showing beneath thin skin. He sees a young mother weeping silently over the recent grave of her son, taken by a swift fever. Death is everywhere. It is the shadow that walks beside life, patiently waiting to claim every soul. To Maui, this is unacceptable. If he could trick the sun to gain time, and steal fire to gain comfort, why couldn't he trick death to gain eternity? Why should humanity be the only creation of the gods condemned to utter oblivion? This question is not merely philosophical, it is an obsession. Maui begins to study funeral rites, to listen to the ancient legends about Pa, the underworld, where Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga, the great lady of the night, resides. They say she is the guardian of the final passage, the one who receives souls and transforms them into stars or consumes them in the void of nothingness. No one has ever returned from there. No one has ever defied Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga and survived. She is the absolute end. But Maui is nobody. He is the trickster. And he believes that even death has rules that can be circumvented. He begins to train. Not with weapons, but with silence. He spends entire days meditating in the caves, learning to control his breathing, to slow his heartbeat, to become invisible not only to the eyes but to the spiritual presence. He practices metamorphosis into smaller, more discreet forms, a lizard, an insect, a dry leaf. He needs to be small enough to enter the realm of death undetected. His brothers notice the change in him. The easy laughter has disappeared. His eyes, once bright with mischief, now have a hard, focused, almost fanatical glint. "Brother," says Rada, the eldest, approaching him one night. "You have already given us the day and the fire. What more do you seek? Isn't peace enough?" Maui looks at his brother, and for the first time, there is a deep sadness in his gaze. Peace is for the living, Rada. But death does not bring peace. It brings the end. And I do not accept the end. Rada shakes his head, worried. There are things that should not be touched. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga is not like Te Are or Mahuika. It does not negotiate. It does not fear. It is the very nature of the cycle. If you try to break it, you will break yourself. Then I will rebuild myself, Maui replies, rising. Just as I did with the fishhook. Just as I did with the ropes. He decides he can't tell anyone about his plan. If the tribe knew, they would try to stop him. If the gods knew, they would punish him prematurely. This journey must be secret. Maui prepares to leave. He doesn't take the magic fishhook this time. The matau is useless against death. He takes no ropes. He takes only 2 polished, heavy green stone maces, punamu, and his courage. Before leaving, he visits his mother, Taranga. She is aging, her hair gray, her movements slow. She looks at her son with a wisdom that transcends human understanding. "You are going to Pa," she says, not as a question, but as a statement. Maui hesitates. How does she know? "I smell the scent of parting in you," Taranga whispers, holding his hand. "Maui, my son, my forelock. Death is not an enemy to be defeated. It is an embrace to be accepted. Do not try to change what is inevitable." "I have to try, mother," Maui replies, kissing her forehead. "For your sake. So you never have to cry again." Taranga cries, but doesn't try to stop him. She knows Maui's nature is to defy. It's both his blessing and his curse. Maui walks to the western edge of the island, where the sun sets beyond the horizon. There, a rift in reality, a subtle portal that only those with spiritual vision can see. It's the entrance to the realm of Hainui-Te-Ipa. He takes a deep breath, filling his lungs with the salty ocean air, the last air of the living world he will feel for a while. He closes his eyes and focuses his will. His body begins to shrink, his limbs retract, his skin hardens and darkens. When he opens his eyes again, he is no longer a man. He is a lizard. Small, agile, silent. With a swift movement, he leaps into the rift, disappearing into absolute darkness. The descent is long and cold. There is no light, only the sensation of endless falling. The air is thin, heavy with the smell of damp earth and ancient decay. Maui, in his lizard form, clings to the rocky walls, descending carefully, feeling the vibration of ancient power emanating from the depths. He finally reaches the bottom of Pa. It is a vast, silent place, covered in a gray mist. In the distance, he sees a gigantic silhouette. Hainui-Te-Ipa. She is asleep. Her mouth is open, revealing obsidian teeth as sharp as razors. Between her legs is a narrow space, the passage through which souls enter to be consumed or transformed. Maui's plan is audacious and terrifying. He will not fight her. He will enter her body. He will pass through her, exiting on the other side, thus reversing the flow of death, bringing immortality back to the world of the living. He crawls silently toward the sleeping goddess. Every movement is calculated. Every breath, if lizards breathe loudly at all, is suppressed. He is only a few feet from her. He can feel the cold heat emanating from her body. He can hear the soft snoring, like distant thunder. Maui prepares for the final leap. To cross the throat of death. But, at that moment, something unexpected happens. A small, insignificant sound echoes in the silent vastness of Pa. A bird. A fantail, Piwakawaka, which had inadvertently followed Maui, lands on a nearby rock and laughs. A sharp, clear, mocking laugh. Hainui-Te-Ipa's eyes open. They are not human eyes. They are black, empty abysses that suck away light and hope. She sees the lizard. She sees Maui. And she smiles. Chapter 7, The Laughter of Death. The sound of the Piwakawaka bird echoes in the cave like a bell of broken glass. Sharp. Inopportune. Fatal. Maui, in his lizard form, freezes. His muscles, trained for absolute immobility, lock in a spasm of panic. He doesn't need to look back to know he's been discovered. The change in the atmosphere is enough. The air, once heavy and stagnant, becomes electrically charged, vibrating with an ancient and terrifying presence. Hainui-Te-Ipa doesn't rise in haste. She doesn't need to. Death is never in a hurry, she knows that everyone will eventually come to her. She simply opens her eyes fully, and the darkness of the Pa seems to condense around her, becoming denser, more suffocating. A visitor, her voice doesn't come from a mouth, but resonates directly in Maui's bones. It's the sound of earth falling onto a coffin, the sound of rotting roots, the final silence after the last breath. And not a dead one. A living one. What audacity. Maui tries to retreat, but his lizard paws slip on the smooth, damp rock. He is exposed. Small. Vulnerable. The plan to silently pass through her body has failed. Now, he needs to improvise. He needs to be the trickster again. He transforms. In the blink of an eye, the lizard disappears and Maui assumes his human form, rising with all the dignity he can muster. He clutches his green stone maces, punamu, though he knows they are useless against a goddess. "Hail to you, great lady," Maui says, his voice steady, trying to mask the trembling in his hands. "I have come to seek a gift." Hainui-Te-Ipa inclines her gigantic head. Her hair is made of black algae and shadows, her teeth are slivers of obsidian that gleam faintly in the dim light. She smiles, and the smile is more terrifying than any fury. A gift? She laughs, and the laughter is the crackling of dry branches. The living do not receive gifts from death. They receive the end. "Why are you here, Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga? Has the trickster of the heavens come to play with me?" "I did not come to play," Maui replies. "I came to negotiate. I want immortality for my people. I want death to be reversible. That souls may return, rejuvenate, live again." The goddess is silent for a long moment. She observes Maui with curiosity, like a spider observes a fly that has decided to sing before being enveloped in its web. "Immortality," she repeats, testing the word. "Do you think life is a right? Do you think the cycle can be broken without consequences?" "I think the suffering of loss is unnecessary," Maui retorts. "If I can tame the sun and steal the fire, I can tame death." Hainui-Te-Ipa laughs again, louder this time. "Arrogant. Foolish. You confuse power with wisdom. The sun and fire are elements. Death is truth. and truth cannot be deceived. She rises, her form growing until it touches the cave ceiling. The shadows around her come alive, transforming into spectral figures, lost souls groaning in silent agony. But I am a just goddess, she says, her voice becoming seductive, smooth as velvet. If you can pass through me, if you can cross my body and emerge on the other side without being consumed, then I will prove you worthy. And perhaps, just perhaps, I will grant your wish. It's a trap. Maui knows it. But it's the only opening he has. I accept the challenge, he says. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga lies down again, spreading her massive legs, revealing the narrow, dark path between them. Her mouth opens in a huge yawn, exposing the black throat that leads to the interior of her being. Then come, little hero. Enter. And see if your cunning is stronger than my nature. Maui takes a deep breath. He looks at the piwakawaka, the bird that betrayed him, still watching from a high ledge, it's chirping softly. Maui gives the bird a warning glance, silence. Or we will die together. He approaches the goddess. The smell is unbearable, decomposition, mold, the ancient odor of cold earth. He enters the space between her legs. It is tight. Dark. Damp. He begins to crawl. First, her legs. Then, her waist. The goddess's skin is cold as ice, but burns like acid. Maui feels his life energy being drained with every inch he advances. His green stone maces glow faintly, trying to protect him, but the darkness of the pa is absolute. He reaches her torso. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga's heart beats slowly, a muffled thunder that makes her teeth chatter. Boom, boom, boom. Each beat is a reminder that he is inside the very incarnation of the end. He needs to reach her mouth. He needs to exit through her throat. It's the only way to be reborn on the other side, reversing the flow of death. He crawls faster, despair beginning to take hold. The air is running out. Darkness presses against his eyes. He feels the walls of the goddess's body begin to contract, like digestive muscles awakening. She is fully awakening now. She is beginning to close him. Maui screams internally, pushing himself with all the strength of his arms. He sees the faint light of the exit, the goddess's open mouth, distant, so distant. He's almost there. His shoulders pass through his ribs. His head is free. He just needs to pull the rest of his body. And then, he hears. The piwakawaka couldn't stay silent. The bird, seeing the tension, the struggle, the absurd situation, lets out a loud, clear, mocking laugh. TTITI. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga fully awakens. The walls of his body close with the force of a hydraulic press. The obsidian teeth of his upper mouth descend rapidly, blocking the exit. Maui is trapped. Trapped between the entrance and the exit. Trapped inside death. He hears the goddess's voice, now furious, thundering, filling his entire being. You were warned, cheat. Death doesn't like games. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga's jaws close. Total darkness. Pain. And then, nothing. Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga, the great trickster, the tamer of the sun, the thief of fire, had met his end. He did not die in glorious battle, nor betrayed by envious brothers. He died because he underestimated the inevitable nature of death and because a small bird could not keep a secret. In the world of the living, the sun continued its slow and generous course. The fire continued to warm the cold nights. But death remained absolute. Irreversible. Final. Maui's tribe mourned his loss, but also celebrated his deeds. They understood, through the tragedy of their hero, that life is precious precisely because it is finite. That the time given by the sun should be used wisely, and the warmth of the fire should be shared with love. And they say that, even today, when the piwakawaka sings at night, it is not just laughing. It is reminding us all that death is always listening, always waiting, and that some mysteries were not meant to be unraveled. Maui tried to break the cycle, and the cycle broke him. But his legend remains, eternal, just like the mortality he tried, in vain, to defeat. Chapter 8, The Crushing of Light. The sound isn't of bones breaking. It's deeper, more primal. It's the sound of a mountain collapsing in on itself. It's the dry, definitive crack of something that was whole becoming fragment. Inside Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga's body, Maui feels the pressure increase exponentially. There's no air to scream. There's no room to move. The goddess's walls of cold flesh and shadow contract with the force of 1,000 colliding oceans. Her green stone maces, symbols of her power and status, crumble into dust between her clenched hands. Punamu, the hardest jade, is no match for death's absolute will. He tries to use his magic. He tries to transform himself into smoke, into water, into light. But in Po's womb, metamorphosis is impossible. Death is the final state of matter, it doesn't allow change. It demands permanence. Maui feels his consciousness begin to dissipate. Not like sleep, but like a candle being extinguished by a violent breath. Memories of his life flash before him, not in chronological order, but in flashes of sensation: the cold of the ocean when he was cast into the sea, the heat of the sun burning his hands on the ropes, the glint of Mahuika's fingernails, the laughter of his brothers, the sad gaze of his mother, Taranga. I failed, he thinks, and the thought is the last coherent thing he possesses. I underestimated the silence. Outside, at the entrance to the cave, the piwakawaka, the fan-tailed flycatcher, stops laughing. The bird inclines its head, observing the sudden immobility of the giant goddess. Hainui-Tiipa remains lying down, her eyes closed, a subtle and terrible smile on her lips. From her body, no sound emerges. No cry of victory from Maui. No roar of pain. Only the heavy and absolute silence of the end. The bird flies away, carrying with it the silent news. Legend says that, since that day, the piwakawaka is considered an omen of death. Its song is no longer seen as mischievous, but as a grim warning. It carries the eternal guilt of having revealed the hero's presence, of having broken the taboo of sacred silence. Hours pass. Or perhaps centuries. In Pa, time does not exist. Then, slowly, something changes. Hainui-Tiipa opens her eyes. She rises, shaking the dust of ages from her seaweed hair. She looks at the ground where Maui entered. There is no body. There is no blood. There are no remains of the demigod. But there is something new. Tiny red and black insects, werewolves, begin to emerge from the earth where Maui was crushed. They move in swarms, glowing with a faint, pulsating light. They are the residual essence of Maui. His life energy, unable to be fully consumed by the goddess, has fragmented. Hainui-Tiipa observes the insects with curiosity. You did not win, she whispers to the swarm. But you did not disappear completely. You became part of the decay. Part of the cycle you tried to break. She laughs, a soft sound now, almost maternal in its cruelty. Irony. You wanted to give immortality to men. Instead, you became proof that everything must die to nourish life. Your fragments will nourish the earth, which will nourish the plants, which will nourish men. You are life, Maui. But only through death. The goddess lies down again, closing her eyes, satisfied. Order has been restored. The trickster was silenced. Death kept his secret. Meanwhile, in the world of the living, the tribe waits. The days pass. The sun continues its slow and generous course, as Maui had promised. The fire continues to warm the nights, as he had stolen. But Maui does not return. First, there is hope. He's taking his time, they say. He's negotiating with the goddess. He will return with the gift of eternity. Then, there is worry. Maui's brothers go to the edge of the western portal. They call for him. They shout his name. But only the echo answers. The wind carries the smell of sulfur and silence. Rada, the eldest brother, falls to his knees. He knows. Deep in his heart, he always knew. Maui had gone too far. He had touched the untouchable. The tribe mourns. Not an ordinary mourning, but a cosmic mourning. They weep not only for the loss of a brother, of a leader, but for the loss of possibility. The door to immortality has been closed. Locked. Sealed with the blood of its greatest champion. Taranga, his mother, does not cry. She sits on the beach, gazing at the horizon where the sun sets. She sings an ancient song, a farewell waiata. Her tears do not fall, they evaporate in the heat of the long day, rising to meet her son in the stars. You gave everything, she whispers to the wind. You gave us time. You gave us warmth. And you gave us the final lesson, that life is precious precisely because it is short. Nature begins to react to Maui's absence. The tides shift slightly. Fish become scarcer. The magic fishhook, the matau, that Maui left behind, is found in the sand, opaque, without shine. It is buried deep, becoming part of the island's geology, a sacred relic that no one dares to unearth. But Maui's story cannot end only in sadness. For myths are not merely records of events, they are seeds of meaning. And the seed that Maui planted with his death was about to germinate in a way that no one expected. Weeks after his disappearance, a young fisherman from the tribe, grandson of one of Maui's brothers, is casting his nets near the shore. He pulls in the net, heavy, hopeful. Upon opening it, he finds no fish. He finds something strange. A piece of bone. White, polished by time, with the distinct shape of a fishhook. It is not the original matau. It is a replica. A perfect copy, made not by human hands, but apparently grown from the coral itself. The young man picks up the bone. He feels a familiar warmth. A vibration. As if an ancient memory were sleeping within the matter. He looks at the sea. The waves seem to whisper a name. Maui. The hook doesn't bring immortality. It doesn't bring victory over death. But it brings something different. It brings remembrance. It brings connection. It brings the idea that, even in death, the trickster spirit is still working, still fishing, still trying to help. Maui didn't conquer eternal life for human bodies. But he conquered immortality for the human spirit. The idea that we can defy fate. That we can change the world. That we can, even if only for an instant, tame the sun. And as the young man holds the bone hook, gazing at the horizon, he feels a presence. Not physical. Not visible. But real. A soft laugh. Distant. Mischievous. Maui hasn't gone. He has become the wind. He has become the wave. He has become the spark in the fire. It became the very audacity of humanity. Chapter 9, The Legacy of the Broken Hook. The bone in your hand is cold, but it vibrates with a thermal memory. It is not merely an object, it is an echo. As you hold it on the beach, under the golden light of a day Maui bought with his sweat, you feel the weight of an inheritance that cannot be touched, only understood. The tribe gathers around the young fisherman. The coral and bone hook, found in the nets, immediately becomes sacred. It is not the original matau, that one rests deep within the earth, fused with the island's geology, a secret forever lost. But this new hook carries the essence of the old. It is a symbol. A promise. Rata, Maui's older brother, approaches. His hair is gray now, his face marked by the time Maui gave them. He looks at the hook with a mixture of pain and pride. He didn't come back, Rata says, his voice hoarse with restrained emotion. But he left us this. Not as a weapon, but as a memento. Terana, the mother, touches the hook lightly. Her hands tremble. Maui always knew he couldn't conquer death, she whispers, so only those closest to her can hear. He knew his journey was impossible. But he went anyway. Because victory wasn't in living forever. It was in trying. This revelation changes everything. Until then, the tribe saw Maui's death as a tragedy, a final failure of the trickster hero. They wept because immortality had been denied. But now, looking at the hook, they begin to understand the true lesson. Maui didn't fail. He fulfilled his destiny. He gave humans time, taming the sun. He gave them technology and comfort, stealing fire. And finally, he gave them acceptance of mortality, dying while trying. He showed that human life is finite, yes, but that within that finitude there is room for greatness, for change, for challenge. Maui's death was not an end, it was the conclusion of a cycle. In dying, he became part of the spiritual Wakapapa, genealogy, of his people. He is no longer among the living, but he is in every ray of sunshine that warms the backs of the fishermen. He is in every flame that cooks the food of families. He is in every act of courage of those who rise up against the impossible. In the following months, the tribe prospers. The long days allow for abundant harvests. Fire protects against the cold nights. And the story of Maui is told and retold, not as a cautionary tale, but as a hymn to human resilience. The artisans begin to carve images of Maui in wood, wakero. He is depicted with his fishhook, yes, but also with a serene, almost smiling expression. He is no longer seen merely as the cunning trickster, but as the Atua, ancestral god/spirit, who loves humanity enough to suffer for it. But there is a shadow that remains. The shadow of the Piwakawaka. The bat-tailed bird still flies through the islands, its sharp song echoing in the forests. People don't kill it, for they know it only did what its nature dictated. But when they hear it singing near a sick house, there is a respectful silence. A recognition that death is near, and that Maui has already faced this fate for all of us. One day, years after Maui's departure, Rata takes his own children to the seashore. He points to the horizon, where the sun begins to set, slowly, generously. "Look," he says. "See how long the sun takes to go away. This is your great-uncle's gift. Every second of light is a gift from him." One of the children asks, "Why did he have to die, Grandpa? Why didn't he stay with us?" Rata smiles, a sweet sadness in his eyes. "Because if he had stayed, we would have stopped valuing time. We would have thought the day would be endless. Maui died to teach us that time is precious. That we must use it well. That we must love, create, and live intensely, because night eventually comes." The child nods, not fully understanding, but sensing the truth in the words. She picks up a smooth stone from the beach and throws it into the sea. The waves engulf it, but the sound of the impact resonates. That's how Maui is. Swallowed by death, but its impact resonates forever. While the tribe lives its renewed life, something happens in the depths of the ocean. Far from the coast, where the waters are dark and cold, the original matau, the ancestral bone fishhook, begins to glow. Not with the sunlight, nor with Mahuika's fire. But with its own light, bluish, mysterious. It is calling. Not to Maui, for Maui is gone. But to someone new. Someone who carries the same spark of rebellion, the same insatiable curiosity, the same defiant love for humanity. The cycle of heroes does not end. It only awaits the next awakening. And in the stars, above the island, a new constellation seems to form. It is not official, it is not named by the ancient navigators. But those who look up, with the eyes of the soul, swear they see the silhouette of a man holding a fishhook, pulling not fish, but the very fabric of destiny. Maui has become myth. And myth is the only form of immortality that humans can truly touch. He did not conquer eternal life for the flesh, but he secured eternity for the human spirit. His story teaches that we are defined not by how long we live, but by how much we challenge the limits imposed upon us. That true magic lies not in avoiding death, but in living with such intensity that death becomes merely a passage, not an end. And so, while the sun continues its slow, golden course, and the fire continues to crackle in the hearths, Maui lives. Not as a distant god, but as the very audacity of humanity. As the voice that whispers, try. Even if it's impossible. Try. Chapter 10, Eternity in the Instant. The sun slowly sets over the horizon, painting the sky purple and orange. There is no hurry. The day is long, generous, a continuous gift that Maui bought with his life. You are on the beach, watching the waves break, and you feel a familiar presence. It's not a ghost. It's a living memory. Maui hasn't returned. His body was crushed, his physical form undone in the obsidian teeth of Hainui-Te-Ipa. But he hasn't disappeared. He has dispersed. He is in the heat rising from the volcanic earth, reminding everyone that fire can be tamed, but never fully possessed. He is in the majestic slowness of the sun, a daily reminder that time is flexible for those who dare to defy the rules. He is in the song of the Piwakawaka, the constant warning that death is part of the dance, not the end of the music. The tribe has learned to live with this present absence. They don't build temples to worship Maui as a distant god. Instead, they honor him through action. Every fisherman who casts his net with respect for the sea is invoking Maui's spirit. Every craftsman who carves wood with patience is channeling his creativity. Every elder who tells the story to the young, with a firm voice and bright eyes, is keeping the trickster alive. Rata, now old, sits under the great flax tree where Maui once wove the ropes of the sun. He holds the coral hook found in the nets, the relic that replaced the lost one. He doesn't use it for fishing. He uses it to teach. Maui wasn't perfect, Rata tells the children gathered around him. He was arrogant. Impatient. A trickster. He lied to Mahuika. He deceived his brothers. He underestimated death. But he loved you. More than himself. And that love is what matters. A little girl raises her hand. Grandpa, if he was so clever, why did he let the bird laugh? Why didn't he silence it? Rata smiles, a smile reminiscent of Maui's, crooked and wise. Because Maui knew that nobody is perfect. Not even heroes. He let the bird laugh because he accepted his own humanity. He knew that error is part of the journey. If he had been perfect, he wouldn't be one of us. He would just be a god. And gods don't understand us. Maui understood us. That is the true lesson of Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga. He is not a model of moral virtue in the strict sense. He is a model of human agency. He represents the human capacity to look at the world as it is, unfair, difficult, limited, and say, no. We can do better. He hacked the universe not for power, but for compassion. As the sun finally touches the water, disappearing into the ocean, night arrives. But it is no longer the terrifying darkness of ancient times. It's a gentle night, illuminated by the stars and the village bonfires. The fire crackles, warming bodies, uniting people. In that moment, you feel it. A light breeze passes by you, carrying the scent of salt and sulfur. And, for a fraction of a second, you hear a laugh. Low. Mischievous. Familiar. Maui is here. He's not in the afterlife, judging your actions. He's here, in the world, in the very fabric of the reality he helped shape. He is the spirit of innovation, of resilience, of joy in the face of adversity. Maui's story ends not with a period, but with a question that echoes through the centuries, reaching you today, in this moment. What will you do with the time you have been given? Will you accept it passively, letting the sun run its course without question? Or will you take your own hook, be it an idea, a work of art, an act of courage, and try to catch something greater than yourself? Maui died so that you could live. Not just exist, but live. Intensely. Creatively. Courageously. He looks at you, through the layers of time, through the mist of myth. His ember eyes gleam with expectation. Now it's up to you, whispers the wind. The day is long. The fire is lit. What will you create? The wave breaks on the sand, erasing the footprints, but leaving the eternal mark of water on the earth. That is Maui. That is us. And the story continues, not in books, but in every act of loving defiance against the inevitability of the end. This story comes from Maori and Polynesian oral traditions, honoring the figure of Māui-tikitiki-a-Taranga as the ancestral trickster who shaped the world through cunning and sacrifice. If it resonated with you, comment, what impossible do you feel inspired to challenge today, using Maui's cunning and courage?